All right, we are here, and let's start with just a huge thank you for mastering the ATG system. This is the early days, so it still blows my mind that people out there master this before it's cool, before everyone else is doing it, when you have to face all that heat of being different or whatever, and you've mastered the system. So very well done. One of the first in the world to get to your level. Now we'll just have a friendly chat, and we'll just grill you on things. These podcasts always end up revealing awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about you. I know that you managed to do this from a home gym. I think that's going to have a lot of valuable insight for coaches. Let's just start with how you found ATG, and we'll figure it out from there.
Well, it all started with a pretty bad ACL tear in a cave in Mount St. Helens, if you're familiar with Mount St. Helens. It's like a volcano in Washington State, and you can go kind of like hike it, and there's caves that go kind of inside of the volcano, and they're like huge. There's like 60 feet of ceiling space in there, and you can just go play around in there. But I was 2 miles into one of the caves.
Oh my goodness.
And,
oh no.
It's beautiful. It's quiet.
I've been there.
It's really, I'd highly recommend it. But I stepped into almost like a crevice, and my foot got caught in the crevice. I turned my hip, and I heard a pop. And the acoustics in the cave are really good.
Oh my goodness.
So it was like, top, top, top.
Oh my god.
And I was like, man, I wonder what that was. It was the worst pain I've ever felt.
Oh my gosh.
And as a farm kid, I've definitely gotten some other gnarly injuries in my life, but my knee immediately blew up to like the size of a grapefruit. And my friend was with me, luckily, but I had to get out of there. So I crawled like the exorcist on my one good leg and like my two hands, and the rock on the cave is really porous.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I lost some skin on my palms and stuff, but I was really happy to be back in my car and drive back home, but found out that I had torn an ACL. The irony of that was I had just gotten the job as a personal trainer roughly 1 week before, and I was kind of showing up for work for my first, like, because the gym had just opened. It was my first real week of work, and I came in on crutches. And I'll never forget the look on my manager's face of like, Adam's just starting out, and he's on crutches. Perfect. So that's how it all started.
Oh my goodness.
Was just being like, how can I rehab my knee? Because the XY axis stuff, a lot of the traditional stuff didn't seem to be working. The limited range stuff didn't seem to be working as well. So it was a couple years later that I found ATG.
Wow.
I saw you on social media, and was really interested in trying to learn some things to help myself, because I had almost fear of walking too far and fear of cutting a certain way. I think when you tear an ACL, I think you're always kind of worried about re-injuring it. So you kind of develop almost like a neuroses about re-injury. So it wasn't until that I started diving into ATG that I discovered that I was actually able to regain not only my previous level of strength and ability, but a considerable amount more. And this was over 10 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm turning 41 this year.
Wow. You look fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And when I got injured, I was in my late 20s. So it's really bizarre and surreal that I'm in considerably better shape now than I was 11 or so. I'm not good at math, but 11 or so years ago. So thank you.
Wow.
Wow.
Thanks for your encouragement and your help along the way.
That's incredible. Yeah. So you were working for a gym, but now you train people from home.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a road getting there. Getting almost back to my roots in a way.
Well, these podcasts have been really life-changing because there's so many coaches out there in so many different circumstances. And so let's really dig into, how did you make a coaching business from home?
It was a long road, and it took a lot of great mentors, in-person mentors along the way. But I started off as a work-a-day trainer at a big box gym. And I leveled up from there as a manager for a big box gym. So I kind of went through the ranks of the traditional fitness industry and learned a lot about what to do. And I learned a lot about maybe what not to do along the way. And I'm typically an introverted person. So I'm kind of more quiet, and I kind of more study, and I'm very observant, and I kind of like to watch things. 5 years of doing that will, I think, help a lot. And it wasn't until then that I decided I kind of wanted to go back out of management and go back to training, because I originally was in the workforce as a copywriter. I have a degree in English.
Right.
I'm also an English teacher. So I love to write. I'm a creative person. I love to draw. That was always my original passion. I didn't grow up wanting to be a coach. I just found fitness to be liberating. I think from working in an office. And I used to spend my lunch breaks at the old marketing company running in the pouring Portland, Oregon rain, just to kind of almost like desensitize myself from just where I saw my life going. And this is not to disparage people who work in offices, because they keep the world going around, but I just had some anxiety about that being my future. And I think it kind of figured itself out. But to make a long story short, the pandemic hit in Oregon and gyms got shut down. So that's when
that's right.
I had quite a few clients at the time, and they were like, what are we going to do, Adam? And I said, we're going to train on FaceTime. So I started a roaring FaceTime business, and I was training along with my clients. Because at that point in my life, I was like, I'm just going to hang out with you and work with you rep for rep and coach you along. And
that's pretty
for like
damn
cool.
Honestly,
8-hour days on my bedroom floor.
I think
they could see my bed in the background.
I mean, that's one of the most badass things I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's genius.
So,
but I mean, it's incredibly badass. I mean, how many calories are you burning a day?
This is kind of probably 2020, maybe kind of 2021 times, I was on my hardwood floor in my bedroom for something like 8 to 10 hours a day. And I think my clients started to get the impression like, oh, Adam's working along. He's working along with us, and he's demonstrating his form.
Yeah.
So they can see what he's doing, but he's also looking at the camera out of the corner of his eye and watching my form. So I think we just built a lot of harmony and built a lot of trust, because a lot of
unique
people
in
felt
itself.
kind of isolated during that time. We were all kind of homebound, predominantly.
Yep.
No one else is working out. Meanwhile, you're literally like working out for the world.
And it was out of necessity for them.
Yeah.
I just wanted them to have a place to go. I think a lot of people in Oregon they wanted a place to be, because I think people were a little bit concerned about being together and obviously getting each other sick. This is what I did. But after some time went by, people wanted to come see me. So I built a garage gym, and it went from being very humble, like 2x4s, to being clutch.
It's badass.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful in there. And it's
where can people, if they're listening at this point and they just want to pause it and go see what your gym looks like, where's the best place to see what it looks like?
No Easy Feet, and it's spelled FEET.com. Shout out to my friend Jessica, who is a very sassy friend who helped me name my business.
That's
No
awesome.
Easy Feet. But we're
NoEasyFeet.com.
NoEasyFeet.com with FEET, and we're in Portland.
It's incredibly cool.
I want to see that. I'll look at it after.
Yeah.
But that's so cool.
You can look at it on your phone right now.
I'm sure that
Joe Rogan pulls up clips. You can look at it just so you see. Because I was going to say one point that I think is cool for coaches to realize is like, I don't think it's even worth comparing exercise and therapy, but there have been studies that just show that like that exercise, having social groups, things like this can be really good for your mental health.
Yeah.
And so like the value of what you were doing for these people during COVID is beyond the physical.
We got to know each other very well.
The best I've felt mentally, it's based on that, having some interaction in there. So then you've also got the physical side, like the exercise side is so good for you. So it's like, I think ATG coaches as a whole tend to be people who like, they want to see other people. They want to see their clients get results.
Yeah.
They maybe tend to put too much pressure on themselves because they care so much. So it's like sometimes in these podcasts, we kind of stop and go, grant yourself, a little more value here. Realize what you're doing for people is huge, physically and mentally.
Yes. I saw a lot of wonderful people, other coaches and other practitioners around me, kind of selling themselves short in different kinds of ways. And I really took note of that, because I think I have that same, I don't really know if it's imposter syndrome, but I think we do have that. I think when you genuinely care, I think you just tend to be more sensitive. And I'm a really empathetic person, and it could be a little bit draining from time to time.
Yep.
So I think the more you know that about yourself, I think the more you can heal.
Yes.
So
realize like my biggest flaw as an in-person coach is I was like terrible at the business side and just so empathetic, but to a point of like barely being able to pay the bills. Like so it's interesting because it's part of what makes me who I am.
Yeah.
And so to not criticize that too much, but then to realize like, okay, I've actually got some value here.
Yeah, I think that having a wonderful girlfriend helps a lot too, because she sees me, and I think she kind of had to explain that to me a couple different times, I think fully for me to understand. So yeah,
she literally had to run our business so it's not just telling, like, she runs the business. Like, if you want to know how this works, when you see me out there like so passionate in my videos and whatever, that's because I get to focus on that.
we need those people
Yeah.
so badly. And I think that togetherness is what makes things work out. And for me, I'm also the same way. I didn't go to school for business. I'm a humanist, so I tend to be really interested in people. I'm interested in people's stories, and I love to hold space for people, and I love to listen. So I think
that's huge in coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I've known to talk about myself a little bit, but I predominantly like to listen and learn.
This is an interesting point because you're with the person for, whether you're doing a 30, 45, 60-minute session, maybe longer, whatever it is, like you're with that person for that time.
Yeah.
Communication is going to become a huge part of your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point there.
How do you approach that? Like, do you, like, let's say you have a new client, right?
Yeah.
I know what it's like to have that sort of pressure and fear. They have the new client. Like, how do you work in the communication? Like, let's say you're doing the first session. Do you ask them their background? How do you dive into it?
It's essential. My process has changed over the years because this is my 11th year in coaching. This summer will be my 11th year of full-time coaching, and my process has changed quite a bit. I used to be really interested in taking them through a very boilerplate screening, a movement screening.
Yeah.
But I felt like that really didn't do enough because I think people want to be heard in their situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I now prioritize learning about their situation. I had a new
How do you do that?
consult come in, I think day before yesterday. I had a wonderful time. She's a whitewater rafter in her late 50s, and
Wow.
she's extremely fit.
Wow.
And I took her through some of the stuff that I typically take people through just so I can take a look at how they move. And she was crushing it.
Wow.
And I was kind of starting to get worried. I was like, well, what can I even do for this person? I'm like, she's probably do more pull-ups than me. But after a while, she just told me. I just had to kind of listen because she was there for a reason. She came to my garage gym for a consultation for a reason. I just had to listen to find out what it was. And she was saying that she felt like her pulling strength. Because I think when you kayak, I don't know if I said row or kayak.
Yeah.
When she kayaks, she feels like her pull on her dominant side is not as strong as her pull on her non-dominant side. So getting her on the lat pull was a really revealing moment. And she was just like, wow, I really feel the disparity here. And getting her on QL, side bends.
Wow.
She really felt the stretch on one side, you know what I mean? Which suggested that she kind of used her lateral muscles differently. So
amazing.
I think just listening and giving people a lot of variety and novelty. And I think that ATG is really good for novelty.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of novelty in ATG of I don't think I've really isolated my ankles before. Holy smokes. This is a different experience. Using a tib bar alone, if you did nothing else for a movement screening, that alone would be an eye opener for a lot of people.
But this is such a good point for a coach out there. If you're doing more listening, that's your job. You're in this consult or this first session. Listen to the person. Mm-hmm. Not, here's the stuff we're going to go through. And even if you are, even for me, if I'm going to go through the slide, if I'm going to go for whatever, definitely adopted more to that style. Get to know this person.
Yeah.
Why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? What's going on with your body? And then you can on the fly, you were able to adapt and give them different stuff. And that's where the skills come in. You can't replace the experience and the skills, but listening to the person, boom, now you're going to get right to that thing for them.
Whether it's direct asking or whether it's just kind of giving them 15 minutes or so to figure out their own why. They know.
Yeah.
They found themselves to you for a reason. So I think they implicitly know. And then along the way, I think you can help them know more. I've had so many clients come to me with a hip thing or a knee thing. And it ends up being, I can't do a single push-up.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, I can't hang from the bar. Yeah. So it ends up being so many things. But I think you just need a way in. I just give them a way to start exploring.
Yeah.
And back to I grew up on a farm thing. It's just, I don't think adults have the opportunity to play. And I think that maybe many adults never had the opportunity to goof off and play. And this is structured, a little more structured than just running around a cornfield and saying tee-hee, which is also good to do. You should definitely run around a cornfield and say tee-hee if you can. But I think that adults need an opportunity to play and not be on their phones for an hour of the day. I think that alone, regardless of the structure and regardless of the measurable benefits that come along with that structure, I think that alone is huge. And I see the way people leave when they're done versus the energy when they come in. I think their body language alone says it, because people will be kind of beaten down from the workforce, beaten down from the day. And then they'll leave their sweaty and happy and
smile,
the whole deal.
Totally. And there's you have hormones that come out from exercising. So I'm just sure yeah, not many people, especially if they're working with you too, and their phone gets set down. That's like pretty amazing, because I can say that
actually a
I'm
good
really
point.
terrible about that. I'm literally trying to stretch and be on my phone, trying to do backwards walking and be on my phone.
I mean, she works from her phone, and I saw her daily screen time one time. We compared.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're going to work on this a little bit.
I've been working on that my own self. I think that the more time I can spend away from my phone, the better. And my phone is necessary because I run, some social media stuff, and I run a business. I need it. But I also am really thankful that I've developed the habit of starting my day with meditation. I start every day with a 20-minute meditation. And I think
That is freaking impressive.
at
Yeah,
the
that's
very
amazing.
minimum, I've spent 20 minutes with my breath and my thoughts. And if things come up that are, that feel really pressing, I need to remind myself that I'm not right now.
That's
And
impressive.
I think that having that ability to say not right now is sort of an ability that's fading away. And
Yeah.
I try to instill as much of the work that I do with my clients with that energy as I can of being mindful about their breath, being mindful about the tempo that they're moving at, and even writing the tempo down in numbers. And I think that type of mindfulness is not only powerful in and of itself, but I think it's very needed at this point where we're at. Almost just to kind of offset a little bit about what you were talking about. I think there's a balance that can be struck there. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Tempo, yeah, probably still underrated as a whole. I was just recently thinking about tempo since I'm going back to being a school fitness coach. And I was like, boy, these kids are going to have a lot of time to learn whatever time I have with them by getting them, like all of them, like onto a tempo on a squat, on a tempo on a split squat. And if a coach out there is listening and doesn't know the tempo that we use, or have a good tempo to use, I'm sure we have resources on that, but that would be really good to use. I think if you're going to have the more personal time you're going to have someone with someone,
Yeah.
learn tempo, master tempo, it's going to put that person in the moment.
It certainly will. And I think that the tempos are themselves, never mind the rest of the programming, is an art form.
Yeah.
Because every tempo would probably have a corresponding benefit,
Yeah.
be it athleticism or be it trying to reform a motor pattern that has been clunky or that maybe doesn't feel well worn.
Yeah.
So I love it.
What are some of your, like, what are some tempos that you've used on different exercises?
I have a wonderful, so I live in a community that has an HOA, and there's 50 houses in my HOA, and I'm one of the homeowners there, and I have a couple of neighbors that I train, and they're wonderful human beings. And if you go to my neighborhood, you'll see a couple of them reverse walking every morning through
That's
my
awesome.
neighborhood. And it's, imagine how happy that makes me to open my blinds.
That's
in the
so
morning
rad.
and see a couple of my grandmother neighbors reverse walking, and they know about knees over toes. They know
That's
about the
so
whole
cool.
deal. They love it. But one of them had a knee replaced and has, some knee issues. So we'll go pretty slow. I think 5-5-5 is pretty good. I've had good results with that for just trying to get balance,
Powerful.
trying to get balance back and
That's
trying to
powerful.
get some range back. Because
Let's describe that for someone who doesn't know what that means.
so if you're-
5-5-5.
Yeah, if you're in the ATG split squat and maybe the front foot is elevated and the back heel is up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the down, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the pause with a full knee bend, and then a very controlled 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 back on the eccentric again. It gives them an opportunity to balance and maybe become a little bit less reliant on the dowels over time.
Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, I will take credit there. I've not done a good enough job on tempo and revisiting training youth and being like, okay, I have years on my hands to not rush their development, but to teach them skill for life.
Yeah, I think that also it is really helpful, not just for those who are injured, but also those who, I don't know what other word to say, but if you're a spaz. And I think if you're kind of a spaz, maybe that can be that you don't train slowly at anything.
Yeah.
And I think that having an opportunity for your coach to explain the benefits of going slower, because I don't think you're not going to be able to master a Poliquin as well if you never have an opportunity to try one super slow.
Yep.
Never mind holding dumbbells, never mind holding a barbell. But man, I have very long legs. I have a very short torso. I'm not sure if you can see in the interview, but I think that having longer legs and a shorter torso makes it a little bit harder to do Patrick steps and Poliquin steps.
For sure.
I always had a little bit. I think the moment arm is longer.
Yeah.
Maybe
For
I'm
sure.
just making excuses. I don't know. But
No,
that really
for
helped
sure.
me a lot. Was just, man, it's easy if I go fast. I can kind of just cover up the fact that I am a little wobbly in certain degrees of motion. But I think you start to learn when you play with 555 that
so challenging.
Yeah, I'm so
challenging.
I totally
it's
know.
shock. It almost takes like a movement and turns it into a pretty broad therapeutic movement.
Yeah.
Like you could almost take a difficult movement and with that tempo turn it into a therapeutic movement.
I think that for people that are starting out on their barefoot journey too, it's doubly important because I train my clients predominantly with no shoes at all.
Wow.
You can kind of see what's going on with the arches and some of the toes and stuff. And I think that people for the first time will feel those muscles turn on correctly, of being able to have kind of like a tripod.
Yeah. Well, our current app we have being made right now so that any other coaches will be able to use the software and white label and have their own app. I'm definitely going to have put in like how it has like the sets, the reps. This is the sign to put in the tempo.
Yeah.
Like where you can enter the tempo. This is just, it's just too good not to have there.
I don't know if you noticed this in your coaching too, you too, but I think if you leave people to their own devices, they'll go slow when they should go fast and go fast when they should go slow.
Yeah.
So I think that there's so much wonderful opportunities there to craft and reverse engineer, if you will.
Yeah. And you can get more precise outcomes. Like for me going into training groups of youth, like I'm trying to get really simple and measurable results. Like I want to be able to show the school, like one of my main goals, as simple as it sounds, is I want to be able to go into the school and a year later be able to show the faculty how many more kids can do a chin up. Like simple measure. Okay. But what's the tempo? Meaning like if you could go from like 8 chin ups on a terrible tempo could actually be easier than like 5 chin ups on. So I'm like, okay, we'll probably go like 3-1-X1. So 3 second down, 1 second pause to make sure they're not shortchanging it, explode up and actually like hold the top position for a second.
You bet.
You get to 10 of those. But I can now actually measure the outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think anyone's, even on social media, I think when you hit truth, like tempo is a valuable skill. So
with pull-ups specifically, I've personally built some crazy muscle implementing a minimum of 3 Mississippis on the way down. And I've been
what are some chin-up tempos you use?
I'd like to do maybe like 3-3-3 sometimes. If someone is just trying to work on some assisted ones, I think to try to build good motor patterns, because I'll put a monster band around the hooks for some people that are starting out, just to make sure they can feel everything working the way that it should and kind of feel some bracing, feel their lats working well, just in addition to their lat pulls. And I think that is a really good way to kind of reverse engineer good motor control for individuals that like to be a little more loose.
Yeah.
I know that just in general, my life is very fast paced. Like I can't wait to just like make myself now do this, because I do tend to like just try to get through the workout as fast as I can.
It would be an incredible tempo for your ice skating.
I know. Even 555 for split squats, like
it'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. I'm like envisioning it. I'm like, it totally makes sense.
Because skating, you have to like hold different. Like you have to have insane body control.
Yeah.
That's probably like your number one. Of course, it's all context, but if you had to take a guess, that would probably be like the number one exercise for skating.
Yeah.
That's intimidating. I would hurt myself probably pretty bad if I tried any beginner level figure skating moves.
It's incredibly,
Ben
impressive.
So.
I haven't tried.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm humbled by that.
I love to just watch her skate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we just stay each other's fans. She's my only person who throws me the basketball for my dunks, and I watch her on the skating. So sometimes things can balance out that way. Support each other.
My mom was a big figure skating fan growing up, and I grew up in the 90s, and I used to spend a lot of time hanging out with her watching the Olympics and competitive figure skating in the 90s. It's a beautiful sport, to put it mildly. It's wonderful.
This is my same era too, watching those same people. So I watched those Olympics as
Oksana
well.
Bayul, shout out.
Yeah, and just for me, seeing the Olympics is what made me want to be an ice skater. So, yeah.
So yeah, I honestly totally embarrassingly thought to try to simplify and just show the movements and not actually put tempo into the app. But you find the right balance, meaning you could oversimplify, you could undersimplify, and it's time. So I promise you tempo going into the app.
I'd like to speak to that a little bit more too, is I think that being an introvert a little bit and being a little more of a quiet type a little bit, and also being more strategy minded a little bit I don't think it's lended itself to being the most social butterfly in the whole world, but I will say it's been really cool having Steven. Steven works with me too. He is. And I've learned a lot from being a mentor, and learned a lot from teaching people things of how to be more fun, more of a fun coach. Because I think that being a fun coach isn't my normal neutral. I think that I'm more of a studious coach.
Yeah,
and
you're clearly like focused on competence.
Absolutely. It's because I've been through periods of being incompetent.
Yeah.
So I think that whenever I see that in someone else, I'm like, should I focus on helping this person in a really detailed way, or should I focus on trying to keep them entertained? And I think that a good coach probably does a little bit of both.
Bingo.
Maybe it's a weird thing to talk about, but I feel like, also being entertaining and having a lot of levity in the sessions has always been a challenge for me. So I think shout out to Coach Steven who works with me. He's great. I'm learning all the time.
So is he more social? Would you say?
I don't know. I'd have to ask him, but I've watched him train before, and I'm really impressed with him because the sessions are just constant laughter. And I think that I'm always trying to
a good outgoing guy.
Probably. Yeah. He's an outgoing guy. Yeah.
There's something to that. Ben Clairfield's gym, they're always having a good time.
Yeah.
Whenever we get training here, we're always
definitely
having a good time.
It is.
There's a balance.
For me personally, Ben knows this. I won't even work out if there's no music on.
She needs techno.
I need techno.
Got it. Understood.
And for the longest time, I'm like, why am I just not doing anything? And then I'm like, babe, put techno on. And then I'm like, yeah, let's go.
This is actually a legitimate, important topic for trainers.
Sure.
Is what do you do about the music?
I've got music playing in the gym. I listen to a lot of punk stuff, so there's a lot of punk going on in the Adam gym. But I'll listen to all kinds of stuff. I'll listen to some techno too.
I like that techno.
It's important.
What did we do in the old gym? We had, I guess, different coaches had different playlists, or different of the athletes would put stuff on, and had my rock and roll and 90s hip hop. And
I've gotten called out. Have you gotten called out? This client would be like, I can't do this. This is a no can do.
I'm sure that
I'm sure
that the occasions I tried to put my Dave Matthews Band or
yeah. It's not for everyone. Shout out to Dave.
I'd be in there working out with Marvin Gaye on or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a lot. I love Motown. I'm a bass player, so bass is really prominent in Motown and full soul and R&B. So I love that stuff too. Marvin Gaye is amazing.
Yeah. I think we did good with a balance.
I think a balance is really good. I think it hits everybody. And the people that don't want to hear the one song but know another good one's coming on, then they'll just kind of put up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's how the gym was. But I never heard complaints about the
because we let people,
everyone just kind of did what they wanted.
Have fun with it.
If you want to get a client for life, you just got to kind of have them come in and play their favorite tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Smart.
And just pay attention. And so you have your own list for the day where it just circulates from punk to rap to this to techno, depending on your client schedule.
I mean, it's pretty smart though. Alyssa, I swear she works out twice as hard. It's I know when it's time for her to work out, I'm like, boys, techno, put it on.
I've gotten tired of my own favorite songs because I think when you're in the gym for as long as
it's a lot.
I think you're just I don't even want to listen to my favorite songs. I started playing Vangelis. Vangelis is a composer who wrote the soundtrack for Blade Runner, and he also wrote the soundtrack for Chariots of Fire.
Oh.
So that Chariots of Fire soundtrack slaps. I highly recommend it.
I know Chariots of Fire.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
You got to have a mixture. It can get mind numbing in the gym. Wait, if you have the same playlist?
Yeah.
I know that side of it. Yeah. Takes me back.
Yeah, we had some good times in our gym. And we're going to have another one.
Yeah. I mean, we're making a public gym again. So we'll let the boys have fun with that.
Congratulations on the public gym.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Maybe a good point to dig into because you've helped your nieces and nephews with their fitness. And for us, it was very simple. Having a gym. We've already done well having a gym. now we have kids. We made him a play zone here.
Yeah.
That totally worked, except now like my son's 4 and wants to like run around in the gym, and we're like, we don't need, like, okay, we need some gymnastic stuff in here so that he can run around safely. So we're like, all right, that's the premise. Play area, gymnastics, and then you got your ATG, and so you kind of just got all the ages. But a lot of the coaches listening are uncles or dads or whatever. So tell us about what you did with your as uncle.
So my niece Dottie is a great example. I think Dottie was 2 years old when I bought her the adjustable gymnastics rings where you can lower and raise them.
Most bang for the buck. I think
they were $25.
And where did they hang it from? Because there's not always somewhere to hang it from.
They had a special situation because they have almost like, I don't know if you'd call it an awning, but it was a steel structure that had Portland rains all the time. So they wanted a place to hang out and not be rained on. And I remember them calling, I think they called the person who built it to see if it was structurally sound enough to be able to handle being swung upon. And it turned out that it was. So they went up. And it's been like a time lapse watching my niece I think I want to say it's 4 years now. It's crazy that much time has gone by. Watching her get swole from doing swings, from doing her version of pull-ups, and for doing her version of dips and single arm hangs.
Wow.
And a lot of this is self-imposed. It's not like I sat
like
down
doing
and
it.
Right, they
I
like
didn't
it.
write her a curriculum.
You don't realize until you
need
have
to.
kids. They like it.
Yeah.
They like to hang.
She invented a new one where you hang from one ring and you swing forward to a baseball tee and you snatch the baseball off the tee and then you swing forward and put the baseball back on the tee.
That's incredible.
So
That's
T plus ring, T rings.
Unreal.
Highly recommended.
Unreal.
Did I answer
Yeah.
your question? I don't know if I did or not.
I saw our daughter Sapphire hang from one arm the other day too, and she's only 2. And it's crazy how much the kids love it. Just them having access to our bars and stuff and have them low so that our kids can hang. They just naturally at 1 year old trying to like climb and reach and be like dad and just hang and show it off. They want to show it off. They're so proud of it.
But first, try to see if there's somewhere to hang rings. It just simplifies everything.
Her saying, Adam, come watch this is probably the best words I could ever hear. And I'm going to get a little emotional here because, but whenever I'm over there, it's, come watch, come check this out. And seeing her recital, because she's, she does everything, ballet, gymnastics, she's a singer. Her up with the other kids, she looks like 5 pounds heavier. She has big delts and she's built. And she's at the age now where she's getting a little aware of how jacked she is. So we're trying to reinforce that being a good thing. I think she feels a little bit other. She's like, oh man, I got really strong. So we're like, it's cool. It's positive.
She'll be fine.
A good thing.
Yeah.
She's learning skills for life.
She will be fine.
Yeah. That's incredible. And yeah, it's definitely a good day and age to have some physical self-esteem, confidence in yourself.
I feel fortunate. I grew up I was born in 1984. So I grew up in the 90s and my parents were not helicopter parents. They were like, go ride your bike. We'll see you for dinner. And a lot of my memories of being a kid were on my BMX bike, just going out in the woods and getting real hurt, falling off jumps. And, I look around nowadays and I just really wish some of that, as much of that as can be allowed for kids nowadays. Just being able to be free range a little bit. And like you said, being able to run and climb, because those things, I think, build a curiosity about the world. And I think they build a sense of adventuresomeness. I don't even know if that's a word.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Make it sound right.
Thank you very much. And I think those things are sorely missing right now. So I try to be an advocate for those things as much as I can. And if I ever I bought gymnastics ring sets for all of my neighbor kids in my cul-de-sac.
That's freaking amazing.
Because they'd be out there, playing in the cul-de-sac, and they'd be watching me, because I have gymnastics rings running along the front of my house doing dips. And they'd come over. Can I try? Sure. And I just noticed they had a natural interest, and they didn't have anything like that at their house to hang from. So I'm always, if I'm one thing in the world, I'm an advocate for playing and having fun and getting a set of gymnastics rings.
This is essential.
Outstanding.
So low cost.
Yeah.
Can build so much physical skill.
Be nice if public parks took this note.
I was just going to say, if you don't have a place to do it on your home, well, okay, go to a public park and bring some gymnastics rings.
But it's kind of, it's kind of tough though. Like the monkey bars are like super high, and it's like, it's not.
They
like,
often have those like 3 levels.
Sometimes.
I got to tell you guys a story about gymnastics rings. My girlfriend Margot, who's an amazing human, and I were babysitting my nephew and my niece recently for the weekend, and my brother has the. It was fun. We had a good time. Lots of Hot Wheel tracks. they have a pair of gymnastics rings that have been sitting out all season. And I leave mine sitting out, but I think theirs got a little bit more rain. But Margot went up there and she was doing like skin the cat, like when you spin backwards.
Oh, wow.
And one of the rings shattered and she fell like on her head and she was totally fine. But this is just a friendly reminder. Maybe consider bringing your gymnastics rings in if you live in a place with inclement weather, because they degrade in the weather.
Wow.
So shout out to...
Now, were those like wood rings, or like what's your suggestion?
They were
on the
like
rings?
they were like wood, but for some reason I think just them being around a lot of moisture and drying and moisture and drying. So maybe bring them in. I'm learning about ring care as time goes on.
Bring them in, or
ring maintenance.
They're so affordable. Replace them every so
easily
often.
Replaceable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch your heads. Be careful.
Yeah, and that's getting into more advanced stuff too. Like if a kid's just hanging or stuff like that.
You'll be all right.
Also, that could happen.
Yeah.
On a little boy or whatever, a ring breaks. Like it doesn't have to have that, but I could just throw them off so much that they still land on a shoulder or this. Like I think that's very smart advice.
Make sure your rings are stable,
structurally sound before you use them.
Yeah.
Yep.
What we have is inside. There's nowhere right now to hang anything from. So we have like the actual gymnastic low bar thing, and then it has little rings on it, so they can still hang and swing and stuff. So that's like super stable. It's not getting rain. It's inside. It's not getting rained on. So, as soon as when we move, we'll have to look. Like, is there somewhere to hang rings from?
I think there's an underrated benefit to having the bar, and I think that's using your hamstrings, because I think when you can crawl up there and you can get the back of your knee over the top of it, you can hang like a bat.
Yeah.
And I think that having that ability,
I loved doing that as a kid.
Is good for your back because it decompresses your back, and it's also really good for like your legs because you get to use your hamstring muscles a little bit. If you can picture that, kind of squeezing the back of your knee.
Oh, for sure.
Just hanging.
For sure.
I think that is also a really good thing to be thinking about for a kid, is just having that leg ability to hang there.
I mean, I remember going up on the bar and flipping over, and I don't know what it's technically called, but I did that so many times growing up. Like that was my go-to thing. You're in your, it must have been at school, because you just do it and do it again. And like, you never get bored. It's like when you're swimming all day, you just continue to do the same things. I'll have to show you.
No, I know, because I remember seeing the kids and I was too scared to do it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
One knee is over the top.
No, I know. I know. I remember like being a kid, seeing kids doing that and me being too scared to do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't hang very long either. So I was scared to like do the monkey bar. It's almost like because of being scared to, I didn't get good at things that I was scared to do.
Alyssa could probably speak to this, but there's an equilibrium benefit that comes along with being whirled around like that so violently, is I think your equilibrium gets better. And I'm sure that almost like having an equilibrium ability probably translates to your sport very well, because you're always whirling around and spinning, and
it's insane.
Your brain gets used to that, I think.
That's an interesting point, because I never actually thought of it at all, but that naturally for me, I was doing cartwheels, I was doing handstands, I was doing round ups, I was doing these flips, I was active, I'm doing a bridge, I'm doing these things. And then as a skater, skating is different than ballet. Ballet, you spot and you actually like continue. As a skater, you just don't see anything and you just continue to whirl. Or look at me, I'm using your words, but you don't, it's called a spin for us.
Yeah, totally.
And I can totally speak to that now, after I didn't ice skate for a long time, and then recently have gotten back into it after Ben encouraged me to do it after we had kids. And I remember being dizzy, and I was like, whoa, this is how other people are when they're like, how can you do this? So I kind of had to get that. It came back super fast, but the like initial like, whoa, kind of was there. So I definitely speak to that. I think it could probably just make a person like balance. This is something so much of the world, if they're not doing things like that, don't even get the opportunity to do. They're not getting balanced in it. Like Ben, if he tried to go spin like that, I mean, he can do a bridge and he can do a lot of things, and he definitely has done different spins and stuff with dunking, but that particular thing is pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Building up spin resilience, if you will.
Yeah.
So you can go to the fair or go to the amusement park and not be sick. Maybe you can build up an ability for that. I don't know, maybe.
But for sure, like the very basics of gymnastic stuff.
Yeah.
It's just all kids should have access to.
Oh, absolutely.
Doesn't matter what sport you're gonna do.
Speaking of my niece Dottie, she'll coil that ring up super tight and then unspool it.
Yeah.
And I think
I've seen kids do that.
It'll go for 40 seconds to a minute. It'll just, and she'll just, turn into a blur. Loves it. So
I was going to say, it like occupies. It's like a free game.
Number one toy for kids.
Free
Yeah.
Gymnastic rings.
Oh,
I
my
don't think
goodness.
you can beat that for the
If I
price.
become the mayor of Portland, I'm going to institute one set of rings per household.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll vote for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We're closing in on 40 minutes, but for coaches out there who want to, like we went over, go to noeasyfeet.com.
Super amazing website. Super amazing gym.
Oh,
I
you
did
checked it
check
out?
I did.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Very professional.
Check it out. If you're in the Pulse, feel free to ask him questions. Yeah. Anything you want to say before we cap off?
Get some rings.
You made that one clear. That I'm taking home.
Keep playing.
This day and age,
There you
everyone's
go.
got iPads. Let's balance out the rings to the iPad ratio. That would help the world.
Can you imagine if Apple sold for every iPad you get a free pair of rings?
And the thing is, it ain't gonna happen. The world's gonna improve from leaders who get really uncommon integrity. So
Yeah.
it's got to be you, whoever's listening. It must be you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Help.
You, the listener.
Yeah. All right. See you later. Thank you, sir.
See you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.